All right, so for this first recipe, we are going to be making veggie tomato soup. Here are all of the ingredients you're going to need, and just so you know, I've been eating this soup like nonstop. It's so good. So I started off by dicing up some celery, and then I cut up some cherry tomatoes. They're little heirloom tomatoes, so there's, like bunches of different colors in there, which I think is really fun. And then I diced up my white sweet onion. Yes, Zoe is on the counter. Don't ask me why I like putting her on the counter when I'm cooking. That's kind of gross, huh? But I like it. So then I cut up my red bell pepper, did a little dance. Then I cut up a couple of mushrooms. Really, you can use any veggies that you want, but this is the little medley that I did. Then I heated up my pan and I threw in some olive oil and then my veggies, all of the veggies that I had just chopped up, they went in the pot, and I just kind of like stirred those around. I also proceeded to crush some garlic into the pot, and I just let those cook with a little salt, a little pepper, stirred it all around, and covered the pot to help it really cook even better. Then, this is the coolest part. It's just doctored up boxed soup. I poured in some organic red pepper and tomato soup I had from Costco. I'm adding water there because that's a little trick that I always do with pasta sauce or soup to get the last bits out. But I just poured that in over the veggies, and it's really cool because you have boxed soup, but it's healthier, it's doctored up, it tastes homemade, and that seasoning that I added in at the end I got from Trader Joe's. It's so good, and bon appetit. I'm done. Literally delicious. I've been eating it an embarrassing amount lately. So next up, this isn't really a meal, but these Brussels sprouts I love, and they're a great side. So I started off by cutting my Brussels sprouts in half and then marinating them in some olive oil, pepper, and then a little truffle sea salt. And also I have white onions cut up in there as well. And I just shook them up in my bowl. And then once I did that, so it wasn't really marinating, it was just covering them. I spread them on the pan and then I stuck them in the oven at 425 to cook. After they roasted for about 25 minutes, this is what they looked like. And then I threw them in a bowl and made a little dressing of olive oil, balsamic vinaigrette, some Dijon mustard, a little bit of honey, and then lots of pepper and a little bit of salt. And then I whisked all of that together like so. Whisked. That's a hard word to say fast. And then I poured it over my Brussels sprouts. Now this just gets yummier the longer it sits there, but oh my gosh, so good. It makes the Brussels sprouts taste like candy. So next up, I am making veggie lasagna. This stuff will last you all week. It's incredible. So I stir fried up some onions, added garlic, some finely chopped mushrooms. Once again, you can do any veggies you want. I just used what I had on hand. I added some chopped up zucchini to the mix and some orange bell pepper. And I just, stir fried all of that in the garlic olive oil. And once it was pretty cooked, but not cooked all the way, I added this tomato basil sauce from Trader Joe's. And I ended up using 2 jars. I don't know what this other jar was, but it was some kind of basic tomato, whatever. And then just because I threw in some of this collagen protein powder, just to add some protein into the mix as well, since I'm not using any meat. And then I threw in some chopped up rosemary, once again, just because, just to add another flavoring. Now, for this recipe, I used rice noodles. I think they're amazing. I don't think you can really tell the difference. And then it was time to stack my lasagna. So I started off by putting some sauce on the bottom so the noodles have moisture from underneath. And then I created my first layer. And this first layer, I took some of my mixture and I coated the top pretty generously. And then I took some of my Kite Hill vegan cream cheese and I threw that in the mix as well. Now, when you do this, you kind of get the effect of like ricotta cheese, and I just think it's really yummy. Now, you'll see I use regular cheese in my recipe too, but part of the reason I mix up vegan cheese with it is because I like to limit my dairy intake. I don't cut it completely, but I like to limit it. So then I moved on to the second layer. Please ignore Bowser in the background. Added the noodles, the sauce, and then I took a little bit of unexpected cheddar cheese from Trader Joe's, and then a little bit of Parmesan. And then I did another layer of noodles. Sorry if this is boring you, but to those of you that don't know how to make lasagna, I felt like this was important. Although I add all the boring steps, so never mind, I take that back. So then I added another layer of sauce, which is really important, obviously, for the top of the lasagna, and then I threw it into the oven. Now, one thing I didn't do that I normally do is I cover it. Don't ask me why I didn't do that. Usually I cover it in tinfoil, and it helps keep the moisture in, but that is the end of that recipe, and it is Honestly, guys, so good. So moving on to this last recipe, this is creamy risotto. Risotto is new to me in my life and I love it. So I started off by making a pot of veggie broth. So I just used this veggie bouillon. And then while that was cooking, once again, I'm gonna stir fry some veggies. I did some shallots, some mushroom, and then about a finger's length of celery. And then last but not least, I added in a little bit of garlic. And once that was stir fried, I added in about 1.5 cups of dry risotto. So I stirred it up, let it soak up all the oils, and then I added in a little bit of white wine. Obviously that's like you don't have to do that, but once I stirred that up, I ladled in a ladle of veggie broth and then I stirred it and then you cover the lid. Now the thing with risotto is you have to stay near your stove. Like literally while you're making it, the whole thing is going to be like ladle in more liquid, stir, cover, take off the cover, stir again, ladle in more liquid. You basically want to give it time to cook and soak up the liquid. And once I had done quite a bit of liquid, you just kind of keep going till it gets soft. I added in a little bit of cheese on top and then covered the lid and let that soak in. And oh my gosh, amazing. And those are my delicious kind of meal prep, kind of healthy food ideas.